there are many credit cards that offer points or loyalty advantages or whatever, but I do think that it's quite confusing. How do people take advantage of this?
So I think there's a few things to think about. First is like, when you get a new card, there's generally a sign-up bonus or a welcome bonus, depending on what the bank is. They'll call it something different, which is generally something like you spend $4,000 in 3 months on this card and they'll give you 60, 70, 80,000 points. I mean, it's an incentive to get you into their universe, to get you using the card. There are people who just spend all their time getting new cards for sign-up bonuses because it's the fastest way to earn points. It's also more tracking and it's a little more complicated. For business owners, I generally don't suggest that unless you love bookkeeping and like meticulously keeping track of everything. I typically suggest get a good sign-up bonus, but also find a card that has bonus categories that fit with your spend. If you're spending a lot on gas because you have vehicles that are out and about, if you're spending a lot at restaurants, getting a card that has a bonus category there, stuff like that. So I think it's more about figuring out what kind of hub, we'll call it, of credit cards that works for you and kind of earns you the points that will help you with the kind of travel you're trying to do.
Welcome to the Venue RX. On this show, we document and share best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues.
What's up, everyone? Jonathan here with the Venue RX, and this is going to be a very unique show for everyone today. And I'm really excited about these types of shows because I think that when we talk about venues, when we talk about the wedding and events industry, it's very easy to be super focused on all the things that we want to talk about normally, right? Sales, the marketing, all of those different things. But when it comes down to it, there is a lot that goes into this from a finance perspective, right? And no, we're not going to be talking about accounting today. I'm really excited to have Spencer Howard from Straight to the Points today. We're going to be talking about something very interesting. Spencer, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So this is very, very neat. And you kind of started, teasing it a little bit right before we got on. But first, I think to just kind of set the scene for what you do with Straight to the Points, and could you kind of just describe very briefly what it is, and then we'll get to your professional background and really unwrap it for venue owners.
Yeah, the simple answer is I'm trying to help people leverage their credit card spend to earn airline miles, hotel points, transferable points that are owned by the bank that you can use to then travel either domestically, internationally. I focus on international business and first class flights. I'm 6'3", I'm a big guy. I like space and I like to travel around the world. So that's the overarching gist of what I do. So it's more just about, it's just about getting people to turn their credit card spend into travel.
Awesome. So the interesting thing for me, and kind of as we were chatting before we pressed record here, is venue owners, whether you're starting out and you've got to buy tables and chairs, you got to, do all these different things. I've put together $50,000, $70,000 rental purchase packages for our clients, and they're putting those on their Amex cards, And so what the interesting thing for me here was, I think for venue owners, brand new venue owners, as well as people who are, currently running venues and they have expenses, this is a very interesting and unique opportunity to either fund vacations? Like, what are some of the things that they can do with this?
Yeah, I look at it as a way to truly fund a vacation. If not just part of it, all of it even. There's so many opportunities, both from the personal side and the business side, to get credit cards that have bonus categories that can help you earn more points per dollar spent, and then flip those into airline miles. So you can actually transfer points from some banks to airlines and then use those points to book flights. You can transfer some points to hotels and use those for hotels, of course. There's just a lot of opportunities that I think are missed by, 95% of society. And it's mostly just a matter of not being exposed to it. I think we all I got into this and it was like my eyes had been opened. I was like, what is this? Where did this come from? So I think there are a lot of people who would like to do it. They just don't know how to do it.
Yeah. I want to, before we kind of unpack that a little bit more, where is your background? Like, where did your background come from? How did you get into this?
Yeah. So I started working in politics in college and then did that for basically my sophomore year of college and then for 10 years. And that's all I thought about. And it wasn't until toward the end of that that I worked at the U.S. Travel Association, oddly enough, in a political capacity, but it was the first place I'd worked where they were like, take your time off. And I was like, oh, I've never done that before. I was always working. And so, I mean, for me, it just started at like, let's find cheap flights. Let's just find somewhere to go. And then stumbling upon a website that like mentioned credit card points. It's like, what's that? Like, what does that even mean? And I remember seeing like a photo of like business or first class on like a long haul flight to Japan or something. And I was like, oh, okay. If this is my ticket to that, then like I will dig into this. And I spent the next like 6 months reading 4 hours a night about everything related to airlines and credit cards and hotels, and not the normal path to learning. I don't recommend it, but that's what I did. And now I have all this stuff to share.
That's awesome. So where did Straight to the Points, because the website straighttothepoints.com, correct?
.ca.
.ca.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Straight to the Points. There's a lot of websites, as you may have noticed, if anybody's looked at a recipe, that are just very long-winded, and they just kind of like, they just take up space. And my whole kind of reason for starting this is just like, get people to where they want to go as fast as possible. Like, people have lives, whether it's a business, a family. You mentioned you have 6 kids. Like, you don't have time to spend just thinking about this all the time. Like, let's just get to it. And so that's where Straight to the Points comes from. And then I kind of turn that into a newsletter where I send out opportunities to book flights with points. And again, same concept is like, let me just speed up the process.
Totally. So I'm fascinated about this personally, because I am aware that, and I think many of our listeners or viewers on YouTube are aware that there are many credit cards that offer points or loyalty advantages or whatever. But I do think that it's quite confusing. I do think, and especially if you have, credit cards on 2 or 3 merchants, with you maybe have Visa, or maybe you have something with MasterCard, or maybe you have like the Apple card. It gives you Apple Cash, or maybe you have Amex or whatever. I know that there are points there, and maybe there are even points accruing, but I don't really know how to use them. And if I'm going to go book travel, like I just booked some travel to Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama to, look at some venues that we're working on in those areas. And when I did that, I didn't really use points. Like, I used my Southwest credit card, but I didn't use the points. So could you help me unpack, like, how do people take advantage of this? Like, how do we sift through the kind of, there's tons of fine print, right?
Yeah. It's, so I think there's a few things to think about. First is like, when you get a new card, there's generally a sign-up bonus or a welcome bonus, depending on what the bank is. They'll call it something different, which is generally something like you spend $4,000 in 3 months on this card, and they'll give you 60, 70, 80,000 points, just to get you. I mean, it's an incentive to get you into their universe, to get you using the card. There are people who just spend all their time getting new cards for sign-up bonuses because it's the fastest way to earn points. It's also more tracking, and it's a little more complicated. For business owners, I generally don't suggest that unless you love bookkeeping and like meticulously keeping track of everything. I typically suggest, get a good sign-up bonus, but also find a card that has bonus categories that fit with your spend. If you're spending a lot on gas because you have vehicles that are out and about, if you're spending a lot at restaurants, getting a card that has a bonus category there, stuff like that. So I think it's more about figuring out what kind of hub, we'll call it, of credit cards that works for you and kind of earns you the points that will help you with the kind of travel you're trying to do.
Got it. Is it primarily travel? I know you mentioned gas, you mentioned restaurants. Being that venue owners are in kind of more of a hospitality category than anything else. Yeah. But travel obviously is there too. Like this industry is seasonal, right? And
sure.
What's, well, gosh, I have so many questions. Time. Are there specific credit cards that you would look at maybe at this point in time, or mid-May here in 2024, that are better for more hospitality or travel that you'd kind of direct people to look to if they're brand new to this?
Yeah, so this is where it kind of comes down to. I tell people there's kind of 3 basic paths to credit cards. Like I said, there's the just chase sign-up bonuses. It's the most involved. It's also the way to earn the most points. There's that kind of hub idea. I call it a hub and supplement, where it's like you kind of get a few cards, sit tight, and then supplement here and there based on upcoming trips. And then there's the, keep it simple, stupid, we'll say, just get up 1 to 3 cards and never think about it again. It's just kind of most complicated and most points to least complicated and fewest points. It's just a preferential thing. So when starting out, I think it's important to kind of just figure out where you think you're going to go on which path. There are a lot of bank rules, so it's good to know just kind of what you're starting at. For me, I think getting a card that earns 2x on everything is really helpful, especially if you're not sure like where you'll be spending. Like if you know you're going to have to spend money on hotels or flights or rental cars or restaurants, like it's really easy to be like, okay, that's where the spend goes. But a lot of people just kind of have generic purchases, for lack of a better term. They're going to go to Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever, and they'll just earn 1x most of the time. If you can earn 2x, I mean, you're literally getting there twice as fast. So I think that's really helpful. And then after that, it's really just like figuring out where your spend is. And I mean, I think for most business owners, you have a pretty good idea. You just kind of look at how your accountant, either you do it or your accountant is done it, to kind of categorize everything. And based on that, you match up credit cards there. And there are like I said, there's gas, there's totally spaced.
Yeah,
gas, restaurants. Yeah. There's hotels. There's flights. There's some that have office supply store bonuses. There's ones that have digital ads as bonuses. I have some clients who have booked or like they pay for tons of digital ads, and that's how they earn most of their points. It just kind of depends on where your spend is going.
Yeah, I guess it really makes sense. If you have an ad spend going for Google ads or Facebook ads or something like that, and it's a reoccurring $500 or $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month,
yep.
You kind of have this locked in, like built-in point system.
Yeah, it's great. There's a card called the Chasing Preferred, which earns ultimate rewards points, which can be transferred to lots of airlines and hotels. And that card earns 3x on digital ads up to $150,000 a year, which I have clients who spend $150,000. I mean, they spend more than that per year on ads, but that's for them, it's a guaranteed 450,000 points. And that's easy. I mean, that's more than enough for a trip. So with 6 kids, it might be a little tougher, but generally speaking, it'll at least cover a lot. But I think it's just such an interesting way to kind of approach it. And most of us don't do that. I don't know. It's always like an eye-opening moment for friends of mine who kind of go, oh, wait, I'm already doing this. Why don't I pick up this benefit on top of it?
Totally. Are there any advantages, or is it cyclical at all, I guess? So what I'm saying is there a better time of year to pick up a credit card to maximize?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So it's not a set time, but banks do increase and decrease bonuses here and there. Obviously, when they want more new clients, they increase the bonus. When they're like, okay, things are good, they can bring it back down. So yeah, it's that. I mean, this is the reason. Part of the reason why I do what I do is like I stay on top of all of this. And there's who has the time? So I do, but no one else does. Yeah, I think it's more a matter of just finding a trusted source to kind of go, what's the best bonus? Okay, this is currently, or I should look at this. I think it's mostly just a matter of finding a resource, because there's no way to keep track of 40, 50 cards and what they're doing at any given moment unless you have a dedicated source for it.
Yeah. So, are there issuers that you like more? So for example, like Chase, you just mentioned Chase, but I know Capital One, I've seen advertisements for different Capital One incentives. Anything Discover Card, I know does some different things. What are there some kind of go-tos for you in general?
Yeah. So there basically several major banks have transferable points, which is what I prefer, just because it gives you more options. So you have Chase has ultimate rewards, Amex has membership rewards, Capital One just calls their points miles. Citi has thank you points. Wells Fargo just launched their own transferable points currency. There's Bilt. I don't know if you know Bilt, but Bilt has a rewards program. And all of these programs transfer points to a variety of different airlines, which means if you're trying to fly to Europe and you have Chase points, you could transfer them to United or Air Canada or Air France KLM. And the best part about that to me is like if one program doesn't have access to award space in the day you need to travel, another one could. So it's all about kind of keeping your options open. And that's why I like the transferable points. So really anything that has transferable points, I think you can do a lot with.
Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense too. If you kind of know like, hey, I want to plan for a trip to France, or I'm going to plan a trip to Italy, or I want to go and look at some wineries, somewhere, and you have a winery in Washington or California or something like that, right? You can say, hey, let's plan for this. We want to do this trip in 12 months or 24 months or whatever it is. We're going to put X amount of points on it. If you get something like a triple point sort of situation, now all of a sudden,
it happens a lot faster. Yeah. And the big thing, what I will say, I mentioned the term award space, and most people don't know what that is, but basically airlines will tell you any ticket for cash. They will not let you use points on any ticket. So the game is kind of finding the award space, or in some cases, what we call saver level award space. Basically, the fewest points you could possibly use for that particular flight. That's the game. Because the fewer points you use on one flight means more points for the next that you have available for the next flight. So because it's not always easy to find award space, being flexible is just a huge key. And that can mean either your travel dates or the route you take or the airline you fly. So kind of any way in which you can kind of be open to other opportunities makes it a lot easier. Thus, the transferable points are just such a key for everything I do, honestly, my own personal travel.
Hey there, thanks so much for watching or listening. I wanted to take a moment and share about Common Sense Events. Common Sense Events is my company that professionally manages and operates venues all across the United States, and we're looking to work with a couple more venues this year. If you own a venue in Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, North Carolina, we are looking to work with you. Our company comes in and takes care of the marketing, the sales, the operations. We hire all of the employees, we manage all the employees, and primarily our agreements are based off of revenue share models. So it's a very affordable way to have your venue professionally managed. And this is especially good if you're thinking about retiring, selling your venue, but maybe you don't want to sell the land, or you're looking for another management option than you currently have in place. If you're interested in this, please reach out by email at venues@cseventservices.com, or you can also click the link in the description of this video or podcast. We'd love to hear from you and look forward to seeing if there's a way for us to serve you.
We've been talking about travel a lot, and I know right before we got on, you even mentioned the microphone that you're using right now.
Yeah.
Awesome Shure microphone there, and you picked that up. So explain kind of how you purchased that.
Yeah, so I have an Amex Business Platinum, and it comes with a variety of different credits that you can use. They're use them or lose them. So January through June, and then July through December, each of those 6-month periods, you get a $200 credit to Dell with the Business Platinum. You make the purchase there, it automatically credits you. I think it can take up to a couple months, but like it sees the purchase and it will track it and it'll just kick you back $200. So in my case, I wanted a better microphone for when I'm on podcasts. And so I was like, oh, that's a good use of this credit. So in a sense, it's a $695 annual fee. So like you really got to think about, are the benefits worth it? It makes it easier if you kind of regularly need some of the benefits from the card, like these statement credits. So I usually need something from Dell. So it's pretty easy for me to leverage up to $400 a year off of my annual fee. There's also some airline fee credits. So I can pretty much get this down to like a $0 card for me based on just what I need. It's different for everybody, but for me.
Yeah. So I was going to ask about that. And that kind of feels, I think for a lot of folks who maybe want to be debt free or want to be,
Sure.
There's almost like the elephant in the room or the dark side, the yin to this yang, right? That we're is credit card fees. You mentioned the $695. I have an Amex Platinum as well, actually, and I stopped using it. I think we stopped using it because of the fee. It's just like almost $700. I don't think we were not taking advantage of all those points.
Which means you should get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. But I wasn't using the points, and so it sounds like there's really a way to make any of these cards with the annual fees worth it. Correct?
Yeah. It's generally speaking, the cards that are going to earn you the most points, have the best sign-up bonuses, are going to have an annual fee. If you're not going to travel, it's pointless. I always say the point of points is not to just have them, it's to travel, like earn them, use them, explore the world. If you don't care about travel, there's just get a simple 2% cashback card and never think about this again. Nothing wrong with that. If you really like travel and you want to put a tiny bit of effort into kind of figuring out the points thing, I think there's a ton of benefit. And that's where it's like, okay, the annual fee becomes worth it. And to an extent, it's a little bit like playing chess. You have to think moves ahead, because I think it's difficult for us to say like, oh, I'm going to give you $95 for a card, $250, $695, like $695, especially if you want to like think about it. To me, the sign-up bonus generally is worth it for the annual fee regardless. It's the year 2 where you kind of have to do the math, run the numbers, think about what your travel is going to look like and where you'll use this. Some cards are keepers. I have cards that I've had for 7 years, longer. I have other cards where I like use it for a year and I'm like, you know what, you're just not earning your keep. That's just, I'm not emotionally connected to any bank. It's just a matter of running the numbers for me and seeing what I need. So yeah, that's how I look at it.
We have a lot of folks in the venue owner community who I think either started this business as kind of like a retirement business, or maybe they got into it because, they had done well in finance or real estate or whatever. And they said, hey, we're going to make this investment into a property, spend a couple $1 million or whatever, a couple $100,000. Maybe they buy an existing building, maybe they build, and then they do want to maybe take some of the off season and travel, or they do want to put a team in place and then travel. So yeah. I think this is really interesting. I'm curious, are there things that you use to help with the tracking so it doesn't kind of snowball on you and now you got 4 different cards because you wanted all the sign up fees or 7?
There's different services out there that will help you track. Honestly, there's one called Card Pointers. I know the founder, he's out in San Francisco, and like it will help you track all the different benefits you have on your card. So it's like, hey, you have this, statement credit you can use. You have this one, you have this one. They'll even send like a reminder email every month if you enter the cards into the app. So it will keep track of what you could be using, just so you know. Or towards the end of it, it'll be like, oh, this one is expiring soon. I get that one from the Dell credit. I'm usually very late with it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I needed to get this thing. So it's I think that's a really helpful app. There's also other like Amex and Chase and Citi and even Capital One. They all have different. I guess the most popular one is Amex offers, where you have to go in and click that you add the offer, and it could be, I think there's one currently, it's like $50 off a $200 if you spend $200 at JetBlue. So if you're booking a flight on JetBlue, but it's not just travel stuff. There's all kinds of things. So Card Pointers, if you get the paid version of it, it'll actually automatically like load in your Amex offers for you, which is such a great tool because it can take a lot of time to kind of click through 100 things. So I like that. I think that you especially get benefit out of that when you have a lot of cards. If you have a few, it's still beneficial, but I don't think it gets too overwhelming. It's just when you start to be like, all right, I'm going to get this, and this, and piece all the stuff together. But yeah, that's a good tool.
Yeah, it really, I love what you said about the chess, not the checkers, because it's not you're not just playing one move ahead. But if you're like a venue owner, for example, and you need to buy a bunch of lumber, and you're going to be at Lowe's, buying a card that's going to give you that 3% or 3x back, or some cash back amount specifically at Lowe's, and making sure those points are loaded in. You have activated that. I know with a Chase card, I have that. But like, if I don't use the card or I don't activate the little like incentive or whatever, then I'm not going to get that.
Yeah. It's for Amex specifically, and even Chase with offers, if I'm making a big purchase somewhere, a lot of times I'm just I don't care. But if it's like, I'm going to make a big purchase, I'll just like double check. With an Amex, like in the Amex, in your Amex account, you can there's a search bar where you can search for an offer. So you could literally just type in Lowe's. And I've seen Amex offers where it's like, you can get an extra point per dollar up to X dollars of spend. And so like, hey, why not? Like I've used that so many times, or sometimes there's Amazon. I love that one, where they're like an extra point for the next, or extra 2 points for the next $500-$600 or $1,000 you spend. I'm like, I'll be done with that in a minute. Like it's just like, it's so easy. So you just have to, it's one of those things where I tell people like, take one extra step, and you can earn a lot of points. Similarly, there's shopping portals for airlines. And then, like Chase Ultimate Rewards, they have a shopping portal where they have Lowe's, they have, I think, Home Depot as well. And sometimes it'll be an extra point per dollar. Sometimes they'll run a promo. It'll be 3 or 4. Like, if you're especially if you're spending money and purchasing online, like it's a really easy way to just add in extra points. Yeah, it's all these like little tweaks. I feel like it's like credit card instead of debit card. Like I'm not a financial planner, but I always tell people like treat it like a debit card. You don't want to spend money you don't have and pay interest. Like that's gonna outweigh the value of the points. But if it's just a matter of like, well, I pay everything off anyway, and I'm using a debit card, we'll just shift it over. You're doing the exact same process, but now you're earning points. Okay, if I go to this website and just check to see if there's like a portal offer for this place where I have to go spend a few $1,000s, it's an extra bit of points. So it's just like tiny little changes. It's not about making these big kind of revamp your world changes.
Yeah. The ads, I think is huge. Like I really hope people take away that piece at least, because everyone, like especially now, 2024, 2025, the landscape's really competitive when it comes to venues. You need to be better than ever before. There's like a static amount of people who are getting married, more or less.
Yeah.
And then there are more venues than ever. So you want to be spending on your marketing, whatever works in your area, Facebook, Google, obviously there's other different types of advertising and marketing that you can do. But the point of it is like, you will be spending that money. So why not just make that money work a little harder for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when I think about ads, think about how often people are on their phones these days. Like digital ads are just so important for so many businesses. I just think it's a huge missed opportunity. I don't blame anybody for missing it. It's just, you have to be made aware of it. But I think it's just like sitting there kind of ripe for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned before we got on, and this was interesting. I guess 100% makes sense, but this is also really good for couples who are getting married, because if you're spending $10,000 on the venue rental itself, then you're spending another 10 to 12 on, catering, florals, a planner, maybe you're at 20, maybe you're at 30, maybe you're at $40,000, depending on, how much money you want to spend on your wedding. Yeah. Even if you're at $10,000 all in, that 10,000. So you talked about funding a honeymoon with that?
Yeah. I mean, I've had tons of readers that I've helped over the years where some of it's like the couple, each one gets a credit card, a new credit card. They earn the sign-up bonus. They book the flights at those points. Others, when they're spending, as you said, like the 20, 30, 40 range, I mean, I've seen people get basically a credit card for, say, roughly every $5,000 of spend, if not a little bit less, and just sign-up bonus after sign-up bonus. And they just book like business class flights to Bali or Italy or Spain or wherever. And then they book these really nice hotels with points. Sometimes I don't think the hotel is one where it's like, sometimes they use points, sometimes they book the flights and now they have extra cash. And so they spend on like a nicer property, separate from points. But I mean, it really kind of opens up your opportunities on a honeymoon if you take care of like business class flights abroad, and it's also a more enjoyable experience and more special experience to me. But yeah, I mean, I always say I love business and first class travel, but to me, it's like you figure out what your goals are. It doesn't matter to me in the end. Like what matters to me is you've accomplished whatever it is you're looking to accomplish. Got
it. That's really neat, and definitely kind of a different sides of the coin. Like we know we have to spend money on things that even if, like we started our business, we manage venues, multiple venues throughout the United States, and we started it kind of saying, we bootstrapped it, right? We didn't take on any investments or anything like that. And we're like, we're going to try to keep our expenses as low as possible. And, after a couple of years, now we're running a business, we're going to have $1 million in payroll this year. We're going to have, 50,000.
Just bootstrapped your way to $1 million payroll. No big deal.
Yeah. And it's crazy. You think about all the money that's going out, and it's like, okay, there's money that I'm spending on marketing. There's money I'm spending on, meals and entertainment. There's stuff that I'm spending on these different categories. And so how can I, now employees are spending money, So
yeah.
Is there, from that side, the employee spending money side, employee credit cards, having authorized users and things like that, do you have any tips or things for people in terms of card issuers that works better for, if you're like giving cards to your employees, or do kind of all of the card issuers have that?
Yeah, I see it most commonly with Amex and Chase for businesses, just because they issue a lot of different business cards. Actually, I will say one of the nice things, and this is to me a fun thing to do, if your business is spending a lot of money on credit cards and earning a lot of points, if you have like an Amex platinum or business gold, whatever, and you have authorized users and they have their own like personal Amex account, you can actually move points over to the authorized user. So in a sense, it's like a bonus, like great job this year, go to use these points to take a trip kind of stuff. I think that's a really cool aspect of things. I mean, yeah, I feel like you'll build the most loyal employees ever. It's like, here, go book your trip to Europe. Or it's just your points. And that easily. And I just think that's,
yeah.
No, and it's just, but it would have been cash out of their pocket is the thing. It's like, to them, it's fantastic. And I just think that's such a cool kind of quirk that most people don't think about. But that's, to me, just like an easy way. I like surprising and delighting, I think, customers, but I think that surprising and delighting employees is also wonderful. And yeah, that's a fun little addition. But yeah, they can use their authorized user card and continue earning points to the same pool that will be under your primary card.
That's so neat. Spencer, that's a completely different way with that. And I think for a venue owner too, you're working with someone, you've got a venue manager, you've got a sales manager or whatever, who is going out and they're buying little things here and there. Yep. And you also know they have an Amex or they have, they fly United or Southwest or whatever it is. Like you can go in and say, hey, you did a great job. We want to, give you some time off during your off season. Yep. Here's enough points to book a flight out of the
yeah. And honestly, for a lot of airline programs, you don't have to book for yourself or your family. You can book for other people. So you could even simplify and just be like, hey, like, let me know what you want. And you just do it. I mean, you can either have them do it or you do it or pay somebody to do it. Either way, it's just such an easy way to kind of, show thanks to those who are working hard.
Yeah, 100%. So let's wrap up today to just talking about when you started your business, and you said it's a newsletter, but like, how do people work with you? How do people get signed up? Like if they want to jump in and they're interested in this, but they want to kind of stay in the know, because you're right.
Yeah.
So many things to keep track of and venue owners are busy. So how do they connect with you more, and more specifically, how do they connect with your business to kind of help keep up to date?
Yeah. So it's straight to the point. The main thrust of what I do, I would say, is my award alerts newsletter. So I send business and first class award space on international routes. I break down like the different points you can use. As I mentioned before, there's always different ways you can book a flight. I think I mentioned United and Air Canada being Chase partners. Both of them are in Star Alliance. They can book the same Star Alliance partners. Sometimes it's better to use United Mile. Sometimes it's better to use Air Canada's program. I break down like why you would use one versus the other, share the exact dates you can book, show you how to search for the space, just make it easy. My older brother, when I basically, the precursor to this, I wrote him an email, here's how to do this. And he was like, you just kind of idiot proof the process. And I was like, that's a bit aggressive, but like the idea is like, I don't want you to spend time wasting time thinking about this. I'd rather you just execute. So that's what the newsletter is all about. So anybody who wants to sign up, there's a free version and a paid version. But that's my main thing. But I'm on Instagram at Straight to the Points, and that's where I post a lot of content, just kind of giving tips and tricks and showing people how to do this on a day-to-day basis.
That's huge. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. So the actual Instagram is Straight to the Points, just at Straight to the Points.
Yep.
And then straight to the points.co for the website.
Yeah. And I will send you a link where you can send your readers and listeners.
Sweet. Awesome. Okay. So we'll put that in the description of both the YouTube and the audio. And I'm excited about this. This is great. Like I got really lit up about the employees. Yeah. When you start setting your systems in place, and we talk about that a lot here on the show, but once you start doing that, you need to find ways to incentivize, your team. And we work with a lot of great people. So,
be the employer who sends your employees to Europe in like business class. Yeah. You'll be the best employer ever.
Yeah. Even something cool, like, like after a year, you get, a week trip or something like that, but you're using the points that you're getting. So it's no skin off of your back. You're spending the money anyway.
Sure.
You're just reorienting a little bit so that you can
And I'm a huge proponent of people taking their time off. It's plenty of studies out there to show you that the restorative nature of just taking a break and letting your brain relax a little bit. So I feel like it's win-win-win. They get to go to something fun. You don't have to break the bank adding more benefits, and they come back in a better place to get work done. I think it's a great way to do it.
Yeah. I love it. Awesome. Spencer, thanks so much for coming on the Venue Arts today. It's been really eye-opening and really cool. And I'm excited for our listeners and viewers to kind of think about how they're spending money a little bit differently, and especially with ads, the travel, all that. That was great. Thank you so much.
For sure. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey friends, Jonathan here, and I wanted to share about Common Sense Events consulting packages. If you are a venue owner and you're struggling with your marketing, your sales, your operations, or maybe there's just, you're new to the industry and you want to really have a leg up and get a jump start on getting your business going and not make a lot of the mistakes that oftentimes people make, the mistakes that we made, frankly, when we first started, we would love to chat with you and see if there's a way that we can serve you. Our team has experience working with over 10 venues all across the United States, doing consulting. We've hosted hundreds and hundreds of weddings at this point, and we know what it takes to be successful. If this sounds interesting to you, we would love to chat with you. You can either reach out by filling out the link in the description of the video or podcast, or you can just email us at venues@cseventservices.com, and we would love to chat with you and see if there's a way that we can serve you. All right, back to the show.